Okay, so Ezekiel 6. The word of the Lord came to me. Now, this is apparently not at the same time as the previous couple of sections. Okay, so we started today reading from the middle of chapter 3 at the end of the 7-day period, and he gets the second vision from God and his first batch of instructions. The next material, the next date he gives us is in chapter 8, when he says in the 6th year, in the 6th month, and the 5th day, so about a year after the beginning of the book. These two chapters now, 6 and 7, he's going to introduce with the word of the Lord came to me. He doesn't give it a separate date, though. So my guess is, and this is just kind of the way it comes across to me, I don't know exactly if this is the intent, but from what I understand, from how it comes across to me, from what I gather in my study of Ezekiel, the rest of the Bible, and just the ancient Hebrew way of writing in general, it appears to me as though he got this word of the Lord at a different point in time than the previous sections we just got done reading, but not after the beginning of chapter 8 in the 6th year and the 6th month, the 5th day. So he got this word apparently came to him at some point after the previous word, before the word we're going to get in chapter 8, where he dates that to a year later. So that's how it comes across to me. So sometime in the first year, after the initial vision, and in the subsequent vision, which occurred 7 days later, apparently at some point between then and his next dated prophecy, he got this word to go along with that. But I don't really know. Okay, I don't really know. That's how it seems to me. But I may be wrong about that. However, I do think we can put this chapter 6 and 7, I think we can put with the material starting in chapter 1, because chapter 8 will date us a year from now. So I think this material does go with the initial batch of material that was introduced at the beginning of the book. But it seems as though he was given this word at a separate time. Anyway, Ezekiel 6. The word of the Lord came to me. Son of man, or human, set your face against the mountains of Israel. Prophesy against them and say, O mountains of Israel, hear the word of the sovereign Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says to the mountains and hills, to the ravines and valleys. I am about to bring a sword against you, and I will destroy your high places. Remember those? Those are the places they built on top of mountains and hills, and in fields and forests, anywhere really. But it was initially built on top of mountains and hills to be shrines to pagan gods. Some of those were there when they came into the land, because the nations that were there before them built them, and the Israelites didn't destroy all of them and started using them themselves. Some of them they themselves built. And they would, you write about that even in the book of Judges, they were already using these high places. Now, sometimes they would use these high places as worship sites for God. So they weren't as bad as being used to worship Baal or something like that. But they weren't supposed to do it. Even when they first came into the land and they had the tabernacle, which was a moving tent that they brought around, they were supposed to go there to worship. And once they had the temple in Jerusalem, they were definitely supposed to go there. So even the high places that were devoted to Yahweh were not really appropriate or legal. But they were slightly better. They were still considered to be better than the high places that were devoted to Baal or Asherah or something like that. Anyway, so now God's talking to the mountains where these high places are found. Your altars will be demolished, and your incense altars will be smashed. And I will slay your people in front of your idols. I will lay, he's talking to the mountains now, technically. I will lay the dead bodies, of the Israelites in front of their idols, and I will scatter your bones around your altars. So now he's talking to the Israelites. Wherever you live, the towns will be laid waste, and the high places demolished, so that your altars will be laid waste and devastated, your idols smashed and ruined, your incense altars broken down, and what you have made wiped out. Your people will fall slain among you, and you will know that I am the Lord. But I will spare some, for some of you will escape the sword, when you are scattered among the lands and nations. Then in the nations where they have been carried captive, those who escape will remember me, how I have been grieved by their adulterous hearts, which have turned away from me, and by their eyes which have lusted after their idols. So they turned away from God and lusted after the idols instead. They will loathe themselves for the evil they have done, and for all their detestable practices. And they will know that I am the Lord. I did not threaten in vain to bring this calamity on them. They didn't think God was going to do it. This is one of the themes that we see presented here in both Jeremiah and Ezekiel and in all the prophets in this time period. The people really didn't think that God was going to do it. In the end, they didn't think he'd go that far. He had given them famine and plague and curses. He'd been doing that pretty much since they came into the land. The whole book of Judges is about that. Okay, we read numerous examples in the book of Judges, which spans like 400 years of that happening, or 300 years. So it's like he had been doing this pretty much since they first got there. But they never really thought he would go so far as to actually kick them out of the land. In the 1,000 years since they first got there, he hadn't done that. He had let foreign nations invade them. We've been seeing that since the book of Judges. He had let famine and plague and wild beasts and things like that. Again, that all goes back to the covenant of blessing and cursing, which you can read at the end of Deuteronomy and Leviticus. But the final ultimate punishment of being cast away from the land itself, he hadn't done that yet, and they never really thought he would do it until he did it. Until he actually did it. They didn't think he was really going to. They always thought that he would relent in the end. And they have to be shown otherwise. One of the lessons that has to be taught here is that God will do this. He doesn't want to. I mean, he gave him 900 years before he finally did. It's not like he wants to do it or that he's in a hurry to do it. But he will do it. If you keep pushing him and pushing him and pushing him, he will do it. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Strike your hands together and stamp your feet and cry out, Alas! Because of all the wicked and detestable practices of the house of Israel. For they will fall by the sword, famine, and plague. He that is far away will die of the plague, and he that is near will fall by the sword, and he that survives and is spared will die of famine. So will I spend my wrath upon them. And they will know that I am the Lord, when their people lie slain among their altars, or among their idols, around their altars, on every high hill, and on all the mountaintops, under every spreading tree and every leafy oak, places where they offered fragrant incense to all their idols. So they would build these things everywhere. They didn't say they built them on hills and mountains, but they would put them under trees, under every leafy oak. They would put these. They eventually got to the point where they just put these things anywhere. And I will stretch out my hand against them and make the land a desolate waste, from the desert of Diblah to wherever they live. And there's a footnote there saying Diblah, saying possibly Riblah. Riblah is where Nebuchadnezzar set up his camp when he attacked Jerusalem. That's where he was, while his commander was actually invading the city. So it could be Riblah. Who knows? I really don't. If the translators don't know, I'm not going to pretend that I know. Then they will know that I am the Lord. So this seems to go with the previous message about the hair. The word of the Lord came to me. Son of man, or human, this is what the sovereign Lord says to the land of Israel. So now we're moving from the mountains to the land. The end. The end has come upon the four corners of the land. Way back in the book of Genesis, we saw this idea of the four corners of the earth reflected in the four directions the rivers were flowing from the middle of the garden. Okay? 4 is the number of the earth, because the earth was presumed to have 4 corners, and there's 4 directions, north, south, east, and west. We saw that reflected all the way back in the picture of the garden when we had this river that ran 4 ways out of the garden and watered the whole earth by doing that. Here, Israel is described as having 4 corners of the land. We already saw the 4 living creatures and the 4 kinds of judgment that are being cast upon the earth. We'll see that again in Revelation. And in the Revelation, they even talk about the four corners of the earth. So 4 is the number of the earth. The earth has 4 directions, and it was believed to have 4 corners. I don't know if they thought at the time that it was flat. Okay, I don't know when they began realizing that it was not flat. I mean, the Israelites were pretty slow in some of those things. The people who would have discovered it first would have been the ones who were out in the seas and saw the curvature of the earth when you're out in the ocean, but I don't know if the Israelites ever did that because they weren't a seafaring people. But they would have envisioned the earth as having 4 corners and 4 directions. The end is now upon you, and I will unleash my anger against you. I will judge you according to your conduct, and repay you for all your detestable practices. I will not look on you with pity, or spare you. I will surely repay you for your conduct and the detestable practices among you. Then you will know that I am the Lord. This is what the Sovereign Lord says. Disaster, an unheard of disaster, or disaster after disaster, is coming. The end has come. The end has come. It has roused itself against you. It has come. Doom has come upon you, you who dwell in the land. The time has come. The day is near. There is panic, not joy, upon the mountains. I am about to pour out my wrath on you and spend my anger against you. I will judge you according to your conduct and repay you for all your detestable practices. I will not look on you with pity or spare you. I will repay you in accordance with your conduct and the detestable practices among you. Then you will know that it is I, the Lord, who strikes the blow. The day is here. It has come. Doom has burst forth. The rod has budded. Arrogance has blossomed. Violence has grown into a rod to punish wickedness. For the violent one has become a rod to punish wickedness. None of the people will be left. None of that crowd. No wealth. Nothing of value. The time has come. The day has arrived. Let not the buyer rejoice, nor the seller grieve, for wrath is upon the whole crowd. That refers to the day of Jubilee. If you remember, every 50 years, the land was supposed to, all the debts were to be canceled, and all the land was supposed to be reset back to the way it was, and they came in, and all slaves were supposed to be set free, and that was to happen every 7 years. Leviticus 25 is where you read about the year of Jubilee. In chapter 25, verse 13, it says, in the year of Jubilee, everyone is returned to his own property. Let's see here. If you sell land to one of your countrymen or buy any from him, do not take advantage of each other. You are to buy from your countryman on the basis of the number of years since the Jubilee, and he is to sell to you on the basis of the number of years left for harvesting crops until the next Jubilee. When the years are many, you are to increase the price. When the years are few, you are to decrease the price, because what he is really selling you is the number of crops, because you don't actually own the land. God owns the land. He is giving it to you to use. What you're selling to somebody else is the right to use that land until the next Jubilee. And that's what's being referred to here in the whole, buying and selling. Because we're not going to be doing any of that while they're in captivity. Now, Jeremiah was given an object lesson to buy some land before the captivity started, as a lesson that eventually, someday in the future, they're going to buy and sell land again. But they're not going to be doing it during the captivity. Let not the buyer rejoice, nor the seller grieve, for wrath is upon the whole crowd. The seller will not recover the land he has sold, as long as both of them live. For the vision concerning the whole crowd will not be reversed. Because of their sins, not one of them will preserve his life. Though they blow the trumpet and get everything ready, no one will go into battle, for my wrath is upon the whole crowd. Outside is the sword. Inside are plague and famine. Those in the country will die by the sword, and those in the city will be devoured by famine and plague. All who survive and escape will be in the mountains, moaning like doves of the valleys, each because of his sins. Not for someone else's sins, but for his sins. Every hand will go limp, and every knee will become as weak as water. They will put on sackcloth and be clothed with terror. Their faces will be covered with shame, and their heads will be shaved. They will throw their silver, and those were all signs of mourning. They weren't necessarily prescribed in the Mosaic Code, but they just became cultural symbols of mourning. They will throw their silver into the streets, and their gold will be an unclean thing. Their silver and gold will not be able to save them in the day of the Lord's wrath. They will not satisfy their hunger or fill their stomachs with it, for it has made them stumble into sin. They are proud of their beautiful jewelry, and used it to make the detestable idols and vile images. So they either use their jewelry to decorate their statues or household idols or teraphim or whatever they were, or they just literally made it. You know, back in the days of the golden calf in Exodus, when Moses was up on the mountain, the people wanted somebody to worship while he was gone. Aaron took their earrings and made a calf out of it. He melted the gold down their earrings, which of course they had acquired from Egypt when they left, and he made a calf out of it. So it could be they're actually taking their jewelry and melting it down and making idols out of them, or it could be they have these idols they've already made, and they're decorating them with their jewelry. I'm not really sure. Therefore I will turn these into an unclean thing for them. I will hand it all over as plunder to foreigners, and as loot to the wicked of the earth, and they will defile it. I will turn my face away from them, and they will desecrate my treasured place. Robbers will enter it and desecrate it. Prepare chains, because the land is full of bloodshed, and the city is full of violence. So he's going to chain them up and take them away. I will bring the most wicked of the nations to take possession of their houses. I will put an end to the pride of the mighty, and their sanctuaries will be desecrated. When terror comes, they will seek peace, but there will be none. Calamity upon calamity will come, and rumor upon rumor. Jesus kind of refers to this in his Olivet Discourse in Matthew 24 and 25 about wars and rumors of wars. Kind of what he's referring to here. In scriptural terms, he's kind of leaning on this language. They will try to get a vision from the prophet. The teaching of the law by the priest will be lost, as will the counsel of the elders. So there's not going to be any visions from prophets, no teaching from priests, and no counsel from elders. The king will mourn, the prince will be clothed with despair, and the hands of the people of the land will tremble. I will deal with them according to their conduct, and by their own standards I will judge them. Then they will know that I am the Lord. Okay, so that is the first batch of prophecies from Ezekiel. That is his opening account, which he received in the 5th year of their exile. In chapter 8, we're going to get on to the next batch of prophecies, or visions, or words that Ezekiel got from God, which is about a year later in the 6th year of their exile. Ezekiel is very helpful to us by our standards today, because he actually dates his prophecies and arranges them mostly in chronological order, so we can follow along as his messages are coming to him. Again, the book of Ezekiel as a whole gives me the impression of basically being like his running diary. I don't know if it was, but it sure seems like it. By today's standards, like it certainly comes across that way. I don't know if he intended to be that way or not, but that's sure how it seems. Unlike Jeremiah, which was clearly written in different parts of it were written at different times, and then eventually all compiled together in a careful fashion in the order, in the way that we have it now. Ezekiel seems to be, the book of Ezekiel reads a lot more like he's just kind of writing these things down as they happen, and then eventually kind of puts it all together in this one format. Which is not how most of these prophet books came to be. Now, again, I don't know if Ezekiel did it that way, but it comes across that way a lot more than these other prophet books do. So we'll get to that next time.